Hey there guys, it's Metro, and today we're back with another video, this time soloing the Cathedral of the Eternal Night, the new dungeon in patch 7.2 PTR. Now, I'm not gonna spoil anything here for you, but I don't get very far, let's put it this way. I didn't realize until about halfway through this 2-hour recording session that I was getting scaled down so vigorously. I kind of assumed that it would be a little bit more liberal, but all I really can do is trash. So I will just get a good look at the aesthetics of the dungeon. Before we talk about the topic that the video is going to be based on, I did want to bring this up. This dungeon's trash, and I've only seen the first quarter of it, is absolutely insane. They got a lot of mechanics, man. Like, this is only on, I do it on heroic and then I switch to normal for a bit, but regardless, I'm scaled to fucking 830. I don't think I don't know when the last time any of my characters have been 830, so I think it's a bit absurd. I really wish there was a way to take the scaling off. It's not. Anyway, nobody is going to be fucking 830 doing this dungeon. I can promise you that. But regardless, it's the way it is. So yeah, I don't know. I was kind of surprised by it. The trash is very dangerous, and it's got a lot of mechanics, like that fire thing that goes out in front, and then some of the mobs heal, and then some of the mobs put down this barrier that's like the haste absorb barrier, but it also deals damage, or like it's like in Nighthold there's the haste barrier, and then there's these mobs that like teleport, and then there's that purple circle. I don't know. It's pretty insane, honestly. So this dungeon looks like it's gonna easily be the hardest Mythic Plus. I don't know. I haven't tried it obviously on Mythic, let alone Mythic Plus, but if you add some actual like bolstering and stuff like that to these mobs, oh boy, there's some really big danger to be had here. But regardless, what I want to talk about in some degree is related to this, kind of like the speed at which 7.2 is progressing, the way the game's progressing, and on top of that, we're going to talk about how like a lot of guilds have quit raiding, quote unquote, how they've, like Midwinter, I think is the best example. There's a couple other guilds, I can't remember what the names are to be fair, but anyway, yeah, there's a couple guilds that have quit, like high profile quit raiding, and I think Midwinter was the one that was like, we're not even going to finish Gul'dan. So most of them, I think, finished the tier, or got to a point where they couldn't go any further and stopped raiding. And why has this happened, and what does this have to do with the 7.2 PTR? Now I'm going to tell you why. These two things are related, and in fact, like, I feel like this is one of the, I don't know, it's a weird time for World of Warcraft, so we'll talk about that. So, one way or the other, if you're not aware, 7.2, the Tomb of Sargeras raid is on the PTR. Now, you can't necessarily test it at your will, but they've already started raid testing, and many of these top guilds that have been raiding 16 hours a day for the last 3 weeks are still not actually fucking finished with Nighthold. You know what I mean? I guess at this point, there's probably not any guilds that have been raiding 16 hours a day for the last 3 weeks. But there's been guilds who have been raiding, like, multiple days a week. And in fact, a lot of the guilds that have quit just said instead of like a 7-day thing all day, we're going to just go to like 4 or 5 day progression. So it's not like they've all quit permanently, like quit raiding permanently. But it is an alarming trend. And a lot of people are saying like it's because of things that I just don't agree with. Like, some people say, oh, the game's not very good. The game, I don't know, like anything you could think of, people have said it, and I just don't agree with anything other than the game just requires way too much fucking effort for these people. And it's to the point now where hardcore is too hardcore. You understand what I'm trying to say? I've known a lot of people over the past few years who, like, they want to be hardcore. They want to be as good as they can be, but they complain about the effort. And the way I look at that is ridiculous. That is absolutely absurd to me. If you're going to complain about how hardcore being hardcore is, then don't fucking do it. You know what I mean? And they talk about things like, oh, it's going to take 1,700 runs of Mauve Souls to get the new artifact. It's like, okay, good. You don't have to fucking do that in 1 week. You know that, right? Like, that's fine. If you want to do that, you don't. It doesn't have to be done in 1 week. But those people are going to try to do it in 1 week. And, I was always kind of surprised that with their resolve, like they never burned out. I guess you don't know about it, but I'm sure there is a lot of burnout in guilds like that. But the fact that they can keep going at that pace seems absurd to me. I don't know how anybody can play the game that way. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I love World of Warcraft, but if I played it, 7 days a week, fucking 10 hours a day for any period of time, I wouldn't love it anymore. Like, it's just not. I don't know. It's a great fucking game. I'm in love with Legion. It's so much fun, and I still have that feeling like I had at the beginning, where it was like, oh man, I can't wait to log on today, And I just don't have a lot of time to play right now, but that actually helps me out. So I think about that in regards to these people. And it's like, every once in a while, I take like 3 or 4 days without even logging on. And then that next day I log on, it's like, oh man, I'm so glad to be on again. You know what I mean? And it's the same way with, since I've been playing a lot of Classic as well, they've actually been a great yin and yang. The things that I love about Legion don't exist in Classic, and the things that I love about Classic don't exist in Legion. So this has actually been working really well for me. And I worry about people like this who are in, like a midwinter type situation. They take themselves so serious, and then they go ahead and proceed to complain about how serious they're taking themselves, essentially. And that really worries me, because I feel like the game at this point is comprised of, like the vocal individuals in this game right now. A lot of them are either this, like people who take themselves way too fucking serious. They think like you need to have like a complex math algorithm for every single stat and spell in the game. Otherwise, you'll never be able to play the class at the highest level. Or people who are so like, there was a MMO champ thread today that I read. The guy was like, I just did Gul'dan normal. It was so easy. How can anybody want to raid in this game? Basically, it's like, it's so, you're intense casuals and then you're intense hardcore raiders, and there's so few of me. You know what I mean? People who play, 3-4 days a week, a couple 110s, a 9, I'm 902 or 903 on my paladin, my main. But I don't even have, like, I think I'm like at 48 points. I'm not even close to 54. And then I have 2 like moderately geared alts. You know what I mean? So that's that. Like that's what I do. I play the game for fun. I play it because I enjoy it. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there who don't play the game that way, or at some point they did play the game that way. They like, enjoyment to them was playing the game 7 days a week and grinding Mythic Maw Souls over and over again. But that, maybe it was never that way, like specifically, but they enjoyed the game enough to play it this often at one point. And then when things change, it's like, oh, well, I've invested so much time into this now, I can't stop, So I feel that way about a lot of people. Like, I've played my Paladin forever, and the part of the reason I love WoW is how diverse the different classes are. Like, for example, I used to, in Wrath, I loved my Paladin so much, but I always wanted to play a Shaman as well, so I leveled the Shaman and did some very light raiding, but it was always in the back of my mind. It was like, man, how cool would it be if I was able to play this character in progression raiding as well, if I had enough time. So I think, that goes the same direction as the people who are in that situation there. They want to play the game and want to be very good at it and want to experience all of these things, but when they struggle with them, I died there, fucking noob. Anyway, when they struggle with them, they blame the systems instead of their own approach to the game, which I think is really silly. And it's actually another, so like I've been saying for years now, the amount of casuals in the game who just say like the game's too easy or the game's shit or whatever this nonsense is, that they clearly have no experience in the game whatsoever to say such. They're ruining the game. They're hurting the game because Blizzard is listening to them and developing the content around their complaints. Well, it's even worse on the top end, but luckily there's a lot less people. Those people are probably the ones, complaining that the legendary system. Basically, I made that video a couple of months ago about my the 5 worst problems with Legion. All of those are, the biggest problems with them are seen by those types of people. People who are going to play non-fucking stop and then complain about having to play non-stop. And I think a lot of this goes back to, I don't know if you guys know, Proper Bird. It's like she's like a guide chick, you know what I mean? She made guides on some really good guides on bosses from the last 2 expansions. And she's quit as well. And like her main reasons for quitting was she didn't enjoy, she likes healing a little bit, but she wanted to play Shadow more. And, she wasn't in a position to play Shadow because she had to spend all her time working on her healing weapon. And then, like all of this, and Shadow was too far behind. It's like, I don't know anything about the situation, but I still play my fucking off spec. You know what I mean? It's like there's no reason you can't. You don't have to have every single fucking point maxed at every single spec. You know what I mean? So if you're in a guild that is telling you do need to have one and you don't like that, then that's not the game's fault. You know what I mean? That Blizzard So we're gonna go into this now, and this is gonna get into the 7.2 thing, but Blizzard's got a lot of knee-jerk reactions, responses to things that were really bad in WoD, and one of them is that there was no fucking content, okay? Let's not even beat around the bush here. Warlords of Draenor had one fucking patch, all right? After 6.0, there was not another patch other than 6.2. 6.2.3 was probably larger than any other thing that they could have hoped to do in that expansion, and that's saying a lot. So it was a very, very, very content-deprived expansion. And on top of that, there was almost nothing to do to progress your character. Like, you know, if there wasn't Mythic Plus, look, compare it to Legion and you'll understand how little there is to actually do outside of raiding. So that was a big issue. Two of the biggest issues with Warlords of Draenor. So in Legion, they've just completely done a full 180 on this. You know what I mean? They've completely gone away from all of those things. They did everything that they could do to make it the opposite. And now it's really like noticeable for these people who are like trying to play the game at the highest possible level instead of just trying to play it with friends and have fun. And yes, I understand losing is not fun for a lot of people. Like, I don't enjoy wiping, you know, dozens of times to bosses that other guilds kill in one pull. But I also don't enjoy playing the game 7 days a week and spending all of my time in Mythic Pluses on a character that doesn't fucking need any gear from it just to get artifact power, you know? Like, I am more than content to get my artifact power from things that I would like to do, like raiding and the occasional, you know, to get the 15 done on the weeks and, you know, do some other 5-mans when I have time. But I am not going to sit here and prioritize doing the fastest 5-man possible in order to get the most artifact power possible. I just don't care enough. It doesn't matter to me, and it doesn't stop us from killing bosses at the level we're playing at, you know? So I think a lot of the complaints that people are having right now, first of all, they have to understand that this is just Blizzard. This is how it fucking works. When somebody, we have gone through this so many dozens of times now on this channel, every channel I've ever uploaded to. The amount of times where, you know, people hated dailies in MoP, well, guess what? No more dailies ever again. You know what I mean? Now we got World Quest. People hate those. Next expansion, they're probably going to do something stupid. It's just, they just flip-flop every single fucking time. Every time there's anything that people vocally are against, they completely flip-flop. So this is how it is. You should have expected this. I think if you actually paid attention, you would know that this is what was going to happen. It just manifested itself in a way that is unhealthy for these people. And like she said on her video, she was basically playing the game all day, every day, doing the same things over and over again, neglecting eating, neglecting her health, you know, not exercising, not sleeping properly. And like she made a comment about how like she said at one point, oh, 3 o'clock in the morning, this is going to be an early night for me. And then that's scary because like she used to go to bed before midnight or I don't know. So, but you know, like that didn't have to happen. You know what I mean? The game didn't force you to do that. And your experience is completely different than mine. I still play the game at a level that I am very comfortable at. We still clear bosses. We cleared 7 to 7, you know, Emerald Nightmare. It took us a long time, but we still did it. We had fun doing it, and now we're in Nighthold, you know what I mean? We're working on Mythic Nighthold at this point. So I don't see why you have to play the game that way. And I do not fault Blizzard for doing this. All right, now this is going to go right into the 7.2 discussion. A lot of people are complaining and saying these guilds are quitting because Nighthold is hardly even over for them, and then the next tier is already started for them. Because if you don't know, these top fucking billion guilds, all they do is just work on raiding stuff, you know? So when there's PTR testing, it's a raid day. You know what I mean? If that shit happens Friday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, that's a fucking raid day. Everybody's got to be on to learn the bosses. And I understand that that's how you get the competitive edge, but this isn't a fucking job. Let's put it this way. You know what I mean? If you can't keep to a set schedule and you have to raid every single day of the week for months, I'm not going to be doing it. You know what I mean? There's just no incentive in it for me. It's not that fun anymore. The game is enjoyable, but that level of social exercise becomes tedious and just really unfun. So I can understand why these people are in this situation, but I can give them the same advice I can give everyone. You're not allowed to complain about how hardcore being hardcore is, all right? You're just not. And I understand that Legion really flipped the script on a lot of that, like especially coming off WoD. These people probably had nothing to do in WoD. They just did split runs and that was that, you know what I mean? There was nothing for their characters to worry about outside of raid other than maybe getting gold and stuff. So now where their characters basically have an infinite level of progression between Titan Forging and the artifact power system. They literally can never stop playing the game, otherwise they're going to lose their competitive edge. And sure, maybe this is unhealthy for the game, but I think the changes that they've made with these systems are easily some of the best changes for longevity. Like the fact that my character is 902 but still has gear that he could obtain, albeit a small chance, and artifact power from 5-mans, still makes me want to go and do 5-mans occasionally. Regardless, I don't do them every single fucking day for all day. I have other things that I would like to do in the game and other things I'd like to do IRL. So I don't do that, you know what I mean? Because I don't care enough about that. That doesn't mean I don't care about progressing in the game. It means that I would rather not play the game in a way that makes me hate it. So 7.2 is on the PTR. They're releasing all these patches basically weekly, like if this patch is about to come out tomorrow, and that's a bit scary for a lot of reasons. I think, they're really trying to elevate the pace of their patch cycle, and that's great overall, but it hurts people. It makes it seem like they're just churning out this content and its value is being lost. So I really hope that this raid does not come out for a very long time, because so what they're going to do here is, if you haven't followed, 7.2 is going to come out, but the raid's not going to be available for some time. I really hope it's going to be months away, because if this patch comes out anytime soon, even if it's April, I think that's still too soon. As you can see here, this this content is well developed. This is a gorgeous fucking area, and I've only seen one fourth of this dungeon. So they've spent a lot of time on this, and it makes me, it's a good thing. It's great for the game, but it's just a knee-jerk response to there's nothing to do in WoD. So I don't think, the right play here is just making it so there's almost new content before the old content is finished by most people. But they have to do this for those people who are essentially killing themselves playing this game, because other than that, those people have nothing else to look forward to, So I don't know. It's a tough decision to make. From my perspective, I love it. I think it's great. I think the pace of the content and the stuff being on the PTR, albeit I think it's quite too soon, a little bit too early to be worrying about testing this stuff. They literally put the shit on the PTR, less than a week after Nighthold opened. So I'm not a big fan of that, because I just don't have time to test it. And, part of this channel was at one point to test new stuff and show it, and news for the new stuff, So anyway, we just cut to the boss here, because all the trash just takes forever to kill. It's got that guy that, I don't know. This was a pain in the ass to solo, man. This took way too long. Wasn't worth it. I really wish they would take the scaling stuff out. I make that optional or something, but anyway, so yeah, it's cool that they have it on the PTR, but I don't understand who they even think is testing this. That first week it was up, it was like, dude, most people are starting Mythic Nighthold this week. Like, who the fuck is going to be testing that? I didn't understand what the point was. And this, I don't even know what the fuck this is. I get death gripped into this pack of mobs that I didn't clear. I don't know. But yeah. So as a content creator for WoW, I feel overwhelmed. I'm never going to be able to keep up on all this stuff. It's just not going to happen. And that's another reason the channel's kind of fallen to disrepair, because I just cannot possibly do everything that I want to do in the game and still cover the new stuff. And also it puts a lot of external pressure on the raiders, myself included. People are complaining about the legendaries and the artifact power and stuff. And luckily nobody in my guild takes it too serious, but we've had the conversation multiple times. It's like, dude, do you even play this game? It's like, I play this game a lot. You know what I mean? I spend at least 12 to 14 hours a day on this game, or a week on this game. You know what I mean? It's a fucking video game. I play it a lot. But these people, that now the game has demanded 40 hours a week to be able to say you're competitive. Whereas in WoD, those 12 hours a week in the game was more than enough to be the best I could be. So yeah, it's just changed. It really has, and it's all a response to the problems that WoD had, and it's probably going to change again in 8.0 to some degree, because now they'll just completely knee-jerk the other way. They're, no, that's it. So now artifact power is probably gone. Legendaries will probably be gone. This infinite progression system will probably be gone, because they just fail to compartmentalize this type of discussion. They just think, oh, everybody is all the people who hate it must actually hate it, and we're gonna lose players. But in reality, those people who hate it, they hate it for the wrong reasons. They hate it because it makes them feel like they're inadequate if they don't play all day and do trivial, mindless, grindy things. But in reality, those things are not meant, they're not set up that way. So yes, Blizzard can try to tweak it like they're doing in 7.2 by altering the artifact power, like how it comes from the dungeons. So Mauve Souls will no longer, it seems almost de facto, will no longer be the way to get artifact power. But unfortunately, it's probably now going to be Mauve, or what's it called? Halls of Valor. Halls of Valor is going to be the one that seems to be the one, because now the longer the dungeon, the more artifact power you get, but it's based on the timer. It's not based on how long you do it. So if you've ever done Halls of Valor like on a high difficulty, you know it's a very lenient timer, because there's a lot of trash that can be skipped and a lot of shit in the areas that can be skipped. So it's not actually as long as the timer seems. But anyway, that's just my take on things. I'm really happy that they're moving content along the way they are. I'm not an enormous fan of seeing this stuff this quickly, but it's healthy for the game. You can definitely never say at any point again that World of Warcraft does not, especially Legion, does not have enough content. It honestly has too much content, and it continues to have too much content for most players. Even these people who are playing the game, 30 hours in 2 days, they're essentially still not able to keep up with the content load that is being demanded of them. So I'm sorry to hear that. If you're one of those people, I'm sorry to hear this, but just realize that to some degree, you're taking yourself too serious. It's just a game. If you're playing it and you're not having fun, no matter what you're doing, you're not playing it properly. All right. I would encourage you to take a deep breath and just relax, because it is easily, in my opinion, the best expansion. There's nothing that you could even say to make me not believe that. So anyway, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, see you guys in the next video.